Good morning, beautiful people. This is Pastor Eric with the encouraging word for Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. And today's encouraging word comes from the Streams in the Desert, 366 daily devotional readings by L.B. Cowman and James Raymond. And there are two scripture verses for today. The first is Acts chapter 12, verse 7. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. Quick, get up, he said. And the chains fell off Peter's wrists. And the second is also from the book of Acts, chapter 16, verses 25 and 26. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Suddenly there was a violent earthquake that the foundation, suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open. Everybody's chains came loose. This is the way that God works. In our darkest hour, he walks to us across the waves, just as an angel came to Peter's cell when the day of Peter's execution dawned. And when the scaffold was completed for Mordecai's execution, the king's sleeplessness ultimately led to his action favoring God's favored race. You find that in Esther chapter 6. Dear soul, you may have to experience the very worst before you're delivered, but you will be delivered. God may keep you waiting, but he will always remember his promise and will appear in time to fulfill his sacred word that cannot be broken. God has a simplicity about him in working out his plans, and yet he possesses a resourcefulness equal to any difficulty. His faithfulness to his trusting children is unwavering, and he is steadfast in holding to his purpose. In Joseph's life, we see God work through a fellow prisoner, later through a dream, and finally through lifting Joseph from a prison to the position of governor. And the length of Joseph's prison stay gave him the strength and steadiness he needed as governor. It is always safe to trust God's method and to live by his clock. God, in his providence, has 1,000 keys to open 1,000 different doors in order to deliver his own, no matter how desperate the situation may have become. May we be faithful to do our part, which is simply to suffer for him and to place Christ's part on him and leave it there. Difficulty is actually the atmosphere surrounding a miracle or a miracle in its initial stage. Let me say that again. I really like that. Difficulty is actually the atmosphere surrounding a miracle or a miracle in its initial stage. Yet, if it is to be a great miracle, the surrounding condition will not be simply a difficulty, but an utter impossibility. And it is the clinging hand of his child that makes a desperate situation a delight to God. Woo, man, what a word this morning. And I know a lot of my brothers and sisters out there today are dealing with some difficult, trying circumstances. Dare I say, circumstances that are utter impossibilities. But know that in the midst of that utter impossibility, God is preparing something. A great miracle takes an utter impossibility to grow. And understand, as difficult as things may be, that God's timing is not our timing, but his faithfulness endures, is what Scripture tells us. He is faithful to his promise every time. Now, sometimes that result may look way different than what we thought. But we can know beyond the shadow of a doubt that we are loved, that it is the delight of God to bless his children even in the midst of difficulty. You see, this world, because God is a loving God and his desire is that his children love him, God didn't need, in the sense that we understand need, to create human beings, to create his children, but he did. But because he wanted his children to love them, he gave them free will to accept or reject him. And it is his delight when we turn to him. And I understand that as a father. I raised 3 children, and I think of times when my children were in difficult circumstances, and even today, all of my children are adults. But even now, when they get in difficult circumstances and they have a need, they call mom or dad. And it is still our delight. It is a joy to be able to be there for our children. God feels, if we as just mere human beings can feel that way, how much more so in God? So understand that you are loved. You are not alone. God is with you in your circumstance and in your trial, and God is preparing something in your life. I don't know what that thing is. You probably don't know what that thing is, but we can trust that it's coming. It's the old saying around Easter is, Friday's here. Speaking of when Jesus died on the cross, but Sunday is a-coming. The resurrection has happened. God is preparing something in your life. He's preparing a resurrection and a redemption and a restoration in your life. So work the process. Walk the process. Embrace the process. My son says one of the things that the Marines say in their training to be the most efficient fighting force that the world knows is embrace the suck. Sometimes in life we have to learn how to embrace the suck, because we understand that God is using those challenging times to prepare us for the next step. And it's a shame. I wish that we as human beings learned by the good circumstances and the blessings, and we do maybe a little bit, but for the most part, at least in my experience and in most of the people I know, it is the hard times that shape us and teach us. So when we're going through those hard times, understand that God really is doing something. It's not just a trite saying. It's not just bumper sticker Christianity to make us feel better. He really is genuinely in the process of making and remaking, creating and recreating us in his image and preparing us for the work that he has for us to do next. So, I'm Pastor Eric. I hope that was an encouraging word for today. Have a blessed Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow. God bless.